Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to check out another Recur figure, as this time we are checking out their Spinosaurus. They actually have some other Spinosaurus models. They have a few different versions, but this is like a smaller one. I think they have a bigger one out too, which I definitely want to get a hold of and review for you guys as well. But this one I thought looked very interesting. We can obviously see it's in a quadrupedal pose, a little outdated now as far as what we perceive Spinosaurus to look like, but at one time this is, pretty much the gist of what we assumed Spinosaurus looked like, or at least close to it. So this figure absolutely holds its place in the history of Spinosaurus evolution, even if, again, at this point in time it's not the most updated version, but considering Spinosaurus and its appearance changes almost on a daily basis anymore, that's not very surprising that this figure would be outdated. And in fact, most Spinosaurus figures, by the time they even reach the market, are already outdated. But this figure does look pretty cool overall, so let's go ahead and get a closer look at it right now. So as usual with Recur, you get a really cool little booklet down here on the ankle of our Spinosaurus, which once you open it, you can get an idea of the size and also the scale of the Spinosaurus that you are looking at. And then you go to the next page, you have some information as well as a question and answer on the Spinosaurus. And then we also have some information just in general on Recur. So that's pretty fun to have that included. But as we come up here into the head sculpt of the Spinosaurus, you can see that the actual texturing and everything looks quite nice. As far as the fine detailing of the Spinosaurus goes, you have that really nice Spinosaurus crest right there. In fact, the entire head sculpt almost reminds me, and actually the entire figure in general, almost reminds me of a JP3 style Spinosaurus. Actually, it kind of has like the appearance of like maybe the JP3 Spinosaurus, like leaning down over the T-Rex after it kills it. Has actually almost a similar look to that I'm just noticing right now, so that's kind of cool. But as far as the paint application as well, similar to a JP3 Spinosaurus, but we also can see that we have that nice hook in the jaw up here. You can see the nostrils again sculpted out, the eyes nicely sculpted out, nicely painted. There's a dark coloration, a black that kind of borders around the eye, and then we have a yellow and a black pupil. You can also see a nice glossy look to the eye area right there, so that it has a bit of a realistic shine. The teeth are all sculpted what appears to be kind of individually, and they look quite nice. They're all painted individually, so they're not sloppy or anything as far as the paintwork goes. And you can see that as far as the mouth goes on the Spinosaurus, the teeth look good on every side, which I don't ever recall seeing sloppily painted teeth from Recur, which is definitely a plus as far as they go. And in fact, it's very few and far between that you'll even find sloppiness as far as paintwork goes on a Recur figure, so that as well is a huge plus. But you can also see that the head sculpt in general looks quite nice on this side. Nice, realistic, kind of a darker version of a reddish type of a color for the inside of the mouth, which I quite like as well. And the inside of the mouth also sports a glossy look to it, as you can see there as I'm turning it, letting the light hit it. So it has that kind of saliva-like look in there as well. You can see some variation of color here on the face with some light, kind of like an off-white or a light gray, and then some variations of reds. And then the primary coloration of the Spinosaurus is a nice dark gray. Up here on the top, you can see how that red picks up there, right in like the center of the head and runs down the course of the back. Some pretty nice looking detail here on the back of the neck, almost an armored look to the back of the neck of the Spinosaurus. As you move down throughout the course of the figure, you can see more of that white popping up here and there. And then as you lead up here into the sail area, you can see that the sail area does sport some pretty impressive detailing in that area as well. Again, lots of cracks and crevices throughout the sail of the Spinosaurus. And you can see how that red coloration there runs up over the top of the sail. And then you also have a little hint of like the white poking up here in certain spots into the lower part of the sail. I will say I'm not a huge fan of the kind of white that stripes through and the red spots and stuff. It's not terrible, but I'm definitely not an over-the-top fan of that coloration. But I am in general kind of a fan of the tones of color that they've used here. But as you move down here into the body, you can see some nice muscle definition here in the arm as you move out into the hand of the Spinosaurus again. Also a very JP3 looking hand, I would say, as far as that hand sculpt goes. Nice scoots down the course of the fingers. The nails are painted with a black, and they are very nicely and very carefully painted. You could see some detailing here in the stomach region, as you could see like some skin wrinkles due to the positioning of the arm, and kind of like some skin stretching over here a little bit as far as that leg pulling on it. The actual texturing of the skin looks pretty nice, and you can also kind of pick up on the rib cage right there in the stomach region of the Spino. Some more creasing right here. Some decent muscle definition. Again, really nice calf muscle, actually. Definitely very nice and big and bulging. And kind of pick up on the knee a little bit right there in the front, or at least the structure of it. The foot sculpt looks pretty nice. Again, nice glossy nail paint there for the feet. And you can see some scoots down the toes. Similarly, kind of to what we saw on the hand, but not super elaborated scoots. You can see a dew claw is present on both this foot and the opposing foot right there. And as we lead up into the tail, you can kind of see some skin creasing and stretching and stuff. Again, just generally showing off the movement of the dinosaur as you lead out the length of the tail. There's a slight curve right there as you lead out that length of the tail. And you can see how that sail almost leads the entire way of the tail, actually. Like, it runs out pretty far. It just decreases in size the further you get, and then has kind of like almost an armored type of a scoot-like appearance, similar to what we see up here on the neck, out here at the tip of the tail. And then if we take a look over here at this side again, you can see the mouth is open nice and wide, letting out a roar of some kind again, sort of looking like the JP3 Spinosaurus after it has killed the T-Rex. But you can also see some nice creasing and stuff down here in the neck as you lead down the course of the neck, get down here into the body. You can kind of see like the shoulder blade right there. The arm is planted into the ground, and you can see it really holding up the dinosaur against some nice muscle definition. Even the elbow is present right there. The hand sculpt again looks very JP3-like, if you ask me. Nicely painted nails right there on the hand as well. And then some more kind of skin wrinkles and stuff showing up here in the stomach region. Some decent texturing again to the skin here in the stomach, as well as the rib cage, which you can see a little bit better over here on this side, I would say, than what we could see on the previous side. The hip bone is displayed in the sculpt. The sail looks exactly the same, of course, on this side as what we had seen on the initial side, but you can pick up on all of the cracks and crevices and just generally the very nice detailing of this side of the sail. And some more really nice muscle definition in the thigh and calf, as well as the kneecap again, or at least the structure of the kneecap present there in the front of the leg. Nice looking foot sculpt, again with the scoots down the course of the toes. The nails have been given that glossy black paint yet again over here, like we had seen on the hands and the initial foot over here. And again, you can get a better look at that dew claw. And then you lead up into the tail. You can kind of see how the skin is stretching off of the tail right there. And we lead out the length of the tail, which has, again, that slight curve. But a very cool Spinosaurus. Again, it is sort of reminiscent of the JP3 Spinosaurus in certain aspects, but at the same time does still sport its very own unique and interesting look. Kind of that very cool stylized version of a dinosaur figure that you are quite accustomed to from Recur, and I must say that I am quite a fan of it. Not a super huge fan of the actual paint scheme or paint application, but definitely a fun sculpt and another really cool figure from the Recur line. And again, if you are not familiar with the Recur line, if this is the first review or anything you've seen of a Recur figure, the figures have a soft, squishy feel, so you can kind of bend them and move them and stuff, and just position them however you would want. So it's a really good choice as far as buying figures for your kids, because the Recur figures are always quite sizable, and they're also very safe because of the soft, squishy feel, but also just generally as far as like a collector's standpoint goes, they're good because you can drop them, and I've never damaged a Recur figure, and that, in my opinion, is a huge plus, because most figures are very fragile, very brittle, but that's not something you find with the Recur figures due to that soft, squishy feel. But as far as a size goes, for a length on our Spinosaurus from the snout there to the tail, you're looking at about a foot, pretty much on the dot, or about 30.5 centimeters. The highest point is definitely the tip of the tail due to the dinosaur leaning down. You're looking at about 5.25 inches, or about the 13.5 centimeter range. And then if we go to the top of the neck, you are looking at just shy of 4 inches, or about 9.5 centimeters. For a size comparison, here is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line, next to Mr. Papo T-Rex's worst enemy, which is the Spinosaurus. And you can see that the Papo Rex is even sporting a green male Jurassic Park-style T-Rex paint scheme, so he really hates this Spinosaurus. But you can definitely see that the size of the Spinosaurus is quite impressive. It's not huge, definitely not as big as a lot of other Recur figures, but still remains pretty impressive in the size department. Again, even if it's not the largest of Recur figures, it is a pretty big Spinosaurus figure regardless, so hopefully these figures in comparison will help to show you that. So this Recur Spinosaurus is definitely a very cool figure. Not the best Recur figure, that's for sure, but still not bad either. You can see that again, the sculpt is quite nicely done. It does have some nice detailing to it throughout, and also shows off the movement of the dinosaur pretty well. It's not overly shown in the sculpt like some other Recur figures are, but it still is shown, decent enough. There's a lot of, again, very nice fine detail to the Spinosaurus, like the texturing of the skin on the face and throughout the entire course of the body up into that sail. You can see the sail detail is really beautifully done. I feel like the grayish coloration almost shines away the detail of the Spinosaurus, so you don't see just how nicely detailed it is due to the coloration, if that makes any sense. It's very confusing to explain, but I feel like the detail is better than what the paint job lets on. But the sculpt is, again, not your most up-to-date and accurate interpretation of a Spinosaurus, but that's because that Spinosaurus look just continuously changes all the time, and this one here is kind of stuck in the transitional phase of a JP3 Spinosaurus, turning into the more quadruped Spinosaurus that we are now more accustomed to. So it's a little bit of both, I would say, and I do quite like that aspect of the figure. Again, it almost has that same similar stance to what I would imagine the Spinosaurus was doing in Jurassic Park 3, right after it killed the T-Rex, and it just kind of leaned down over the Rex, and the Rex was laying down there underneath it. It really has a very similar stance to the body of that moment in Jurassic Park 3. And this, although it looks quadrupedal, I feel like the positioning of the body almost makes it look like it is actually a bipedal Spinosaurus, but just crouching down over top of something, again, almost recreating that scene in JP3, which I actually, the more I look at it, the more I actually like that aspect of the figure. The paint job is definitely not my favorite paint job from Recur, but it doesn't look bad either, and I do appreciate the fact that they kind of took very similar tones of color to a JP3 Spinosaurus, not in the same design, but the actual coloration is very similar. Like, you see different shades of grays and stuff on the face, you see a good bit of red like running along the back up over the tip of the sail and everything. Like, those are all similar colors to a Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus, and with the sculpt looking similar to a Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus, I feel like those two things go together quite nicely, so that was a plus as far as the figure goes as well. I'm not super sold on the kind of stripes and spots of the red and white throughout the course of the body, but it also isn't the most unappealing thing in the world either, so the figure as a whole I think is quite nice, and definitely another really fun release from Recur. So if you are interested in picking this up, make sure you check the link in the description, as I will have a link to the Recur website, as well as a link to the Recur Amazon store, where you can head on over there and purchase yourself this or any other awesome Recur figures you are interested in. So make sure you check those links in the description, go buy this really cool Spinosaurus, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.